This is Houston Newsmakers with Cambrell Marshall.
Trying to increase the minimum wage has been a goal of Democrats for quite some time, and now that they have House and Senate majorities, they want to make it happen. A proposal to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour was passed as part of the COVID stimulus bill. It will not be part of the Senate negotiations, but it's still a big part of the conversation. But what should we believe? Is it good for some while ending the jobs of others? How much is too much? Dr. Joyce Beebe has her PhD in economics, is a fellow in public finance at the Baker Institute of Public Policy at Rice University. Dr. Beebe, thank you so much for joining us and helping us bring out some of the facts of this topic. We'll let the politicians argue about some of their spin. But first of all, the proposal for the $15 minimum wage, it's going to be phased in over several years. What impact would that phase-in process have on the overall economy, do you think?
Well, overall, the proposal says that it's going to phase in within a 5-year period. The current proposal that's in the Congress says, well, the first increase is going to take place in June this year. And by 2025, it's going to totally phase into the $15 minimum wage level. So the impact is trying to reduce the one-time impact, say, let's just raise it immediately to $15. Mm-hmm. But overall, there are different reactions to this policy. So the supporters basically said, well, you know what? Over the last 10 years, we have never adjusted the federal minimum wage that was put in place in 2009. And look at all the states. There's more than half of the states and Washington, D.C. already increased their minimum wage. So they see this as a validation that this is really a policy that we need to consider. Because if you are a minimum wage worker all these years, what you will see is, well, everything around me is becoming more expensive. Mm-hmm. Housing, utility, and clothing, everything. But my wage has never changed.
The Congressional Budget Office has said that, okay, if we do this $15 proposal, that jobs will be lost. They estimate 1.4 million will be lost. They also say the people in poverty would be reduced by 900,000 or so. So I guess people have to weigh what's more important. That's a reality, or can the CBO numbers be trusted?
CBO is basically the research arm for the Congress, and it produces like nonpartisan research result, and it doesn't really draw any conclusions. Mm-hmm. So the statistic you just mentioned directly came from CBO, and people who look at that number basically said, well, minimum wage is a good policy, but it's not a magic policy that sort of get rid of all the problems. In some ways, it help some people out of poverty, but it creates non-employment issue, like you just mentioned. So, like you mentioned, people need to weigh the differences and see what's the consequences.
So how do economists do that? How do economists weigh the pros and cons of something like that?
So what the CBO does is it kind of says, well, they ask, who will be bearing the burden of this policy, and how much is the burden? Mm. So they say, well, directly you will feel the impact. The business owners will feel the impact. And also, not only that, consumers will feel the impact as well. So business owners directly will see their labor costs increase, obviously. And what they will do is they have one or two choices. They will say, well, I'm going to absorb part of that cost myself. So my business profit will probably go down. A second option they have is they will increase the product price or their service price of their end customers. So as a whole, we are all consumers. Mm-hmm. So to a certain extent, we will see the price increase as consumers. However, higher income households generally spend more money in dollar terms when they make their consumption decisions. Uh-huh. So higher income households are likely to bear more of the burden than the lower income household, although the lower income household will also bear the burden because they spend a higher portion of their income, although the dollar term is lower in terms of consumption.
So a lot of folks talk about, well, you know, we got this real big budget deficit, And
Right.
I've heard many people talk, well, the deficit is not that big of a deal right now because the interest rates are low. But I've also heard conversation about that while the interest rates are low now, if we have higher wages and the money with the stimulus package inflow, that will in turn maybe increase interest rates as well. Is there anything true to that?
So the most direct impact for the minimum wage increase is going to be felt by business owners and consumers. In terms of the impact of this policy on government program, it's most likely to be increasing some government expenditure, but decrease others. So if people have higher wages, they were less likely to use the benefits such as food protection or food assistance programs. So that part is going to be lower. And some kind of a tax expenditure programs like earned income tax credit that's heavily reliant by the lower income household will also decrease because people have higher wages. However, other parts of the program like Medicare, Medicaid, or government-sponsored unemployment benefit program will increase as a result of the unemployment. So overall, government expenditure is going to slightly increase by about $5 billion a year based on the CBO projection. But overall, the highest impact is going to be on consumers and business owners.
Okay, so I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. Dr. Reed is sticking around, by the way. Thank you for doing that.